Every organization tells a story. The question is, does yours inspire people to bring their best? Welcome to the Joy-Centric Culture Podcast, and I'm your host, Bill Capodagli, author of the brand new book, Creating a Joy-Centric Culture, and the best-selling books, The Disney Way and Innovate the Pixar Way. Here we're going to explore how leaders turn purpose into practice and workplaces into communities where people belong, grow, and matter. Not with slogans, but with daily choices. Because joy isn't just a perk, it's a practice. And culture isn't what you say, it's what you live. So let's begin. Welcome back to Episode 3, Values, the Golden Rule. In Episode 2, Dream, we ignited the purpose or the story. Episode 3 brings us to the next essential element of a joy-centric workplace, believe. And we begin with values, the golden rule in action. Values are not just slogans on a wall, they are the behavioral DNA of any organization. The story tells us why we exist, and values define who we are while we fulfill that purpose. And the value at the heart of every joy-centric organization, the one that turns work into a contribution and strangers into community, is the golden rule. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. It sounds simple, even old-fashioned, but in practice, it's transformational. Because when an organization truly lives the golden rule, joy stops being elusive. It becomes the culture. Section 1. Why values matter. People cannot consistently behave joyfully without clarity, and when values are unclear, people protect instead of contribute. Fear replaces trust. Leaders lead inconsistently, and culture becomes accidental. But when values are clear and lived, people know how to act, not just when someone's watching, but always. Values replace rule books. Values guide judgment. Values shape culture in the moments that matter most. Values, when internalized, becomes the organization's conscience. Section 2, Disney, the Golden Rule operationalized. Walt Disney didn't write values to decorate a hallway, he operationalized them. He believed every guest deserved dignity and delight, so cast members were empowered to create magic. Not magic through policy, but magic through judgment informed by values. Disney's values could be felt. Safety first and foremost. Courtesy, smile first, treat other guests as VIPs. Show, take pride in the show or your product. Efficiency, never compromise safety, courtesy, or show for efficiency. No one need to memorize them, they were experienced. That's what values do. They don't instruct, they guide. Section 3, a business story, values in action. Years ago, I came to the conclusion that organizations don't fail because of lack of strategy. They fail for lack of shared values. We witnessed leaders shop for incentives, metrics, dashboards, but breakthroughs always came when the teams aligned around how they would treat one another. One leader told us, once we defined how we behave, the decisions became easier, even the hard ones. Because when values are alive, you don't just need to check the manual. You know what's right, what it looks like, and the golden rule of practice collectively becomes a compass. Not north on a map, but north in behavior. Section 4, values require codification. This is where codes of conduct come in. A value not acted is philosophy. A value acted becomes behavior. Values need structure, not to restrict, but to enable. Codes of conduct translate values into action. Codes answer, if we truly believe in the golden rule, how must we behave with each other and our customers? Codes of conduct, there aren't rules. Rules restrict, codes release. Rules say don't. Codes say, here's how we lift up one another. Section 5, how to create joy-centric codes of conduct. When your organization completes the dream or story, as we talked about in Episode 2, the next step is to define values that bring that story to life. Gather your leadership team and define 6 to 10 behavioral statements, examples of joy-centric codes. And we treat every person with dignity, patience, and respect. We create joy for customers and for each other. You'll consider this. We all have bad days. But how would you feel about a person who had $846,000 in the bank or 401k, and they learned that someone had taken $180, and they spent $28,800 to try to find that culprit. Now, it sounds pretty ridiculous, but I'm sure most of us are guilty of this one time or another. On the way to work, someone cuts us off, or we get angry, or we have a disagreement with our significant other or one of our kids, and that 5-minute encounter ruins our entire day. But there are 86,400 seconds in a day. There are 180 seconds in a 5-minute encounter, and there are 28,800 seconds in an 8-hour work shift. And yet we let that 180 seconds spoil the entire day. So we need to next, our value is assume a positive intent. Maybe that person rushing who cut us off in the morning and was rushing to the hospital to spend the last few minutes with a loved one who was at the end of their life. Or maybe they were just a jerk. But let's not let it ruin the rest of our day. We listen first, speak second. We own problems fully and fix them without blame. We use good judgment even when no one is watching. These codes are easy to understand, they're easy to teach, they're easy to recognize and celebrate, and impossible to ignore when violated. Once created, codes of conduct become the daily language of culture. You no longer need to police behavior. Your values guide it, and that is Joy-Centric leadership. Section 6, Case Study. Pike Place through the eyes of values and codes of conduct. In episode 2, we admired the Pike Place dream to make people happy. But there's a connection to values. They made joy behavioral. Their unspoken codes of conduct were pretty clear. Play, have fun, make their day, leave joy behind like glitter. Be there, engage people in front of you, and choose your attitude. Make it fun for yourself and everyone around you. No one hands out frowns at Pike Place, and no one needs a manual to understand why. Values are visible because behavior makes them visible. Section 7, Sue's Story Revisited. Values become identity. When Sue discovered meaning in her work at Bristol-Myers Squibb, the transformation wasn't empowerment, it was identity. They didn't make joy optional. Her work went from task to role to story to pride. And pride is a value, a lived value. Sue's new internal narrative was her code of conduct. I protect infants, I nourish families, and I improve lives. No one required her to feel that way. Values made joy self-generated. That's where culture becomes self-sustaining. Section 8, Leader's Assignment. Install values into daily rhythm. If you're listening as a leader, here's your work for this week. Number 1, create or redefine your values and codes of conduct using your dream or story as a source. Number 2, begin every meeting with a values check. 1 minute, 1 question. Which value will guide us today, and how will we demonstrate it? Number 3, spot and celebrate values in action. Recognition builds reinforcement. And number 4, reinforce codes of conduct and hold people accountable, but do it gently, warmly, respectfully, and consistently. My favorite quote from our book, The Disney Way, comes to us from Walt's big brother, Roy. When values are clear, decisions are easy. Because culture is not what we say, culture is what we tolerate and what we reward. Values define both. In closing, values are where your dream starts to become a reality, where the golden rule becomes the operating system of work. And when values are lived, codes of conduct guide behavior and joy becomes a habit. And then something profound happens. Excellence becomes natural. Next time we'll move into episode 4, Believe, the leader's mindset shift. Until then, honor the story, live the values, always walk the golden rule. Remember, lead with joy.